Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Barker versus Laughlin. Step forward, please.
25-year-old occupational therapist Carla Barker is suing her ex-fiancé, heavy equipment operator Donald Laughlin, for the return of a waterbed mattress and 2 jackets.
Ms. Barker, you and the defendant have been engaged for a period of time well over a year ago.
Correct.
According to your complaint, you broke up in September of 2001. You moved out. The defendant owes you for some furniture and 2 jackets.
That is correct.
Fine. Those are the 2 jackets.
Yes,
Bird,
ma'am.
would you transfer the 2 jackets to her? He says you can take back the 2 jackets and I don't owe you a dime. Is that right, sir?
Exactly.
Chris? So, Ms. Barker, you can tell me now. Now you have your 2 jackets back.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you lived in the same residence, sir, in the same city for the last year and a half?
Yes, ma'am. I've lived there for 6 years.
Worked at the same job?
Yes, ma'am.
So are you Rip Van Winkle? Where have you been for the last year and a half if you claim he owes you money?
I haven't been not dealing with this. For the last 6 months, I have been trying to work with Donald through an attorney that I had acquired to resolve these matters.
When you moved out in September of 2001, what property did you take with you?
I took a love seat, a papasan chair I had. I took another queen-size bed that I had possession of. I had 2 dressers. I had a cedar chest.
Now, what is it that you claim that he has that belongs to you?
He has a mattress, a replacement waterbed mattress. What it is an actual mattress.
A replacement waterbed mattress?
Yes.
What does that mean?
The waterbed had a bag in it that you filled with water. However, I was having difficulty sleeping on that. It was hurting my back. So I purchased basically a regular mattress that had pads on both sides, and it was a regular mattress that fits into the frame of the waterbed.
What else do you want?
There was a computer desk that was purchased,
Yeah?
that I had purchased.
So why didn't you take it with you?
Well, at the time, it was too big and it was put together. It would have had to have been dismantled to be taken apart and for me to take. That would have required time, which he was not willing to give me.
So now you decided you wanted it?
Well, yes, when I was...
Well, I'm sorry you don't get it.
But, ma'am, I believe that he is in possession of it. I purchased it.
I don't care whether
and
you
if it is in his possession, that he owes me the money for that.
No, he doesn't.
Can I ask why?
Yeah, you can. I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
There are no courts for people who live together. Clearly, when you separated, he had no problem with you taking a whole bunch of stuff out of the apartment. Because I
Those
read your
were my
complaint.
possessions.
I read your complaint and I read his answer. He had no trouble. You left and you said, you take this stuff, you want to take this stuff, you take it, the rest of the stuff you leave here. You couldn't take this big bandura with you. You had no place to put it, so you said, to hell with it, I'll leave it there. As far as the bed is concerned, you had him get rid of his waterbed because you had a pain in your back. He got rid of his waterbed. You put another mattress there. Now you want the mattress back?
Yes, ma'am, I do. Because
Well, you
he is
can't
still in
have it.
possession
You
of the bag that went in it in the
can't
first place.
have it back. Because if
Then
you
I
wanted
believe-
any of these things back, a week after you moved out, if you had gone to him and said, now I want these things because I believe they're mine, then you litigate it.
Ma'am,
You
we
don't
have
come
been
into
dealing
court a
with
year and a
this
half
for-
later and say, well, now I have a house that's big enough.
Ma'am, I
When should
haven't
it be?
moved either. My place of residence is still the same.
What does that have to do with anything?
Because it's not the fact that I can fit it, it's the fact that I want him, and I believe that he owes me for that.
He's
And
not
we've-
giving you a penny.
I have been dealing with
He's
an
not
attorney
giving
for
you
6 months.
a penny. The day after you move out, you resolve all issues. He lets you take a whole bunch of stuff with you. And all of a sudden, you wake up 8 months later and say,
Has been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Bird, you are going to love this case. Because I read the complaint and the answer, and I found the facts, as presented by you 2 young ladies, to be fascinating. How are you related to her?
I'm her mother.
Why don't you have a seat for a minute, please? How old are you?
17.
Your mother's close enough, right? You don't feel threatened by me in any way, do you?
No, ma'am.
That's a big mistake. How old are you?
I'm 18.
And this is your?
Mother.
According to your complaint, Miss Willis, the defendant is a friend of yours.
An ex-friend, yes.
Well, she was a very good friend of yours. And somehow she gave you a couple of checks that she asked you to cash for her.
Right.
You went into the bank, you cashed the checks for her. According to you, you gave her the money with the exception of $50
Right,
that
that-
she had owed you from previously. And then you were notified that these were stolen checks by your bank, and your account was charged for the money, and you want her to pay you back.
I do.
Now, I couldn't quite get everything that you were saying, Miss Thorpe, but according to you, you had stolen the checks, but she stole them from you. 2 checks. And you have no idea what she did with those checks. Is that right?
That's right.
So why don't we start with a story like once upon a time. Once upon a time, I was driving in the car with my friend.
Well, no.
Then just tell me.
Okay.
Let's go. Once upon a time.
Okay, once upon a time, last May 23rd, we were at our graduation practice. She asked me if I could cash a couple checks for her, saying she did not have her ID, and I asked her if she had a bank account she could cash them out. She said she didn't. So, you know, she's a friend of mine. I did it.
When did she give you the checks?
When we were at the bank.
How did you get to the bank?
I drove.
And how did she get to the bank?
She drove.
So you park your car at the bank. We're going to follow this. You know, we're once upon a time. Now, we're once upon a time. You've gone from graduation into the car. She follows you to your bank. You park your car. She parks her car. And you walked up to her car.
I walked up to her car to get the checks. I sat down in her car. Then I went inside. And
So she handed you the 2 checks.
Right.
What did they say?
I didn't pay a lot of attention to what the checks looked like, to be quite honest. I did ask her where they're from, what they were for. She told me that they were back child support from her boyfriend's ex-wife.
At any time previous to going to the bank, did you discuss with her how much the checks were for?
I think I asked her when we got there. They're for $47 each, and I looked.
When you looked at the checks, was that the first time you saw what the amount was?
I don't remember whether I asked her at the graduation practice how much they were.
Well, you're not a stupid person, are you?
No, I'm not stupid. I honestly just
You're not
don't
a stupid
remember.
person because you have a bank account. How much money did you have in your bank account?
At the time, I had $603, and I
So
have
if
some
somebody
bank
had
statements
asked
here.
you to cash checks for them in the amount of $2,000, you couldn't have done that, right?
Right, right.
So you had to have asked, well, how much are the checks for?
I don't remember. I was very naive. I didn't, at that point, I did
don't
not
look
know that you had
naive.
to have that much amount in your bank
Did you
to
hear what I
cash them.
said? You
Yeah.
don't look naive.
I don't look now, but I've learned a lot since then. I have.
You mean in the few short months you've learned a whole bunch?
Just about this, about cashing checks, about banks.
Where did you get your money from to put in the bank?
From my job.
What kind of job?
I worked at an ice cream parlor.
So you knew enough to open up a bank account? Did you open it up by yourself or
no,
with your
my
mother?
dad, I've had it since I was 13 years old.
Great.
My
So you
dad
know how
got
to
it
go
for me.
in there?
Right.
So you know how to make deposits? Did you ever withdraw any money from the bank?
I did. Yeah.
Make out a withdrawal slip.
Well, no.
You don't live on Mars.
I didn't. I never used a withdrawal slip at my bank. It was a savings account. All I did was give them my social security number, ask for the amount, and I had to sign.
So what were these 2 checks made out for?
$447.50 each. And the reason I believed her about the child support is prior to this, a month before, she told me she was expecting a check for about $500, and she told me that is what she was going to pay me my $50 back for.
Need equipment.
I need equipment. First blood.